I want to implore on government, when you have a state of emergency, let us know precisely what is going to come out of it. You know, it's not just declaration. There must be some things or steps that must be taken to ensure that this state of emergency is state of emergency. Now, in terms of palliatives and distribution of grains, you know, different states, we have seen them. States have done, some of them have managed it well, some have not managed it very well. That is what came from government. But I can assure you that intervention, even that pronouncement that 40,000 metric tons will be released, actually impacted on market. So prices were moving on around May, around March, around February, March, but then they were somehow stabilized because of this policy. But even at that time, people were projecting that maize, for example, will be 80,000 naira per bag, 100,000 naira per bag. We are now already seeing 100,000, 80,000 or plus already. So what that means is that whatever government has probably has been depleted. If they have released the 40,000, they don't have any more, so they don't have the muscle, you know, to actually be able to contain or control the price. They have done it to a small extent, but they have not done it sufficiently. Now, coming to the state governments, what the state governments and the lower strata of governments are supposed to do, local governments, is to ensure that, you know, like Nee said, you know, they have access, they provide access roads, you know, instead of constructing, if you like, bridges, you know, in capitals and all that, is to go and actually construct and, roads that link and bring, link the farmlands, you know, to the urban centers. That will ease this process. Then there is also the policy, there are also some levies, you know, all sorts of levies that are being given. Anytime you are moving, any day that is a market day, you find that there will be revenue officers, you know, stopping every vehicle, collecting all sorts of revenues, and then unfortunately, you find road safety there, you find police there, you know, extorting money, you know, not actually ensuring safety. So all of these actually have impact on these prices. So I believe the state governments can do a lot more. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Ango. Well, in going round, first round I'll call it, we've been able to establish a few things. You know, some talked about poor infrastructure in rural areas leading to farms and all of that, food insufficiency, the role of states, inflation caused by removal of subsidy, among other things, and then insecurity. But let me get back. Having all of this to deal with, where do we go from here? How do we begin to resolve the issues and stabilize food prices?
Well, you see, people have painted a gamut of realities, not fairy tale. Everything that has been said here is real. We can touch whatever is there. All the policies we have made over the several years that even he mentioned have talked about how to get around many of all these issues, but we have not implemented. I will start with what Prof was saying, that when you intervene by releasing from the grains reserve at the time of inflation, you bring it down. And you know, you remember the CADEP, the arrangement that specified or stipulated that some countries within this hemisphere in Africa should dedicate 10% of their annual budgets to agriculture. It was there. The Maputo Declaration is there, and there were about 4 pillars that you needed to address, one of which was storage. And you know, in Nigeria in 2008, between 2008 and 2009, up to 2010, we attempted to expand our storage base, for instance. The storage capacity in Nigeria is about 1.3 million metric tons. Now,
but what's in it?
Listen now, if we were only able to lease 42,000 metric tons and we said that was all, then what happened? Why did we spend all that money to create those storage capacities, and we didn't have 1 million But we didn't have 800,000 metric tons. Why? Some people did not implement what we were supposed to implement. Two, as was also said, agriculture is a rural vocation. He says he lives in a village, no road, and everybody in Nigeria starts from living in a village. We are all village people. We all have our roots in the village. There should be roads leading from place of production to place of need or use. This is what happens in the first world. I will tell you this. Over a long period of time, we used to attend the Royal Agricultural Show in Coventry. And we would stay in London, and we would go by rail to the location. From Paddington Station, there is a rail connection up to Manchester, and this Stonehenge is along the road, along the way. And you look left and right, you see flush green with animals grazing, and you have cottage houses and farms. And rail allowed for easy transport of whatever was produced to Manchester and back to London. This is how it is done. If, like Ken said, people take something from, let's say, a market in my local government to Lagos, and they use trucks, and they pay multiple taxes, and they pay high transport costs, and they are traders, how will they not add up all this expenditure to the commodities that they are taking? What we should do is to make available transport, specific transport for goods or produce. Now, these two things I've said. Because of climate change, we should learn to use even our groundwater. We should optimize the use of our dammed waters. We should be able to produce year-round so that food will be available. We should encourage people to invest more in agriculture, and we should tell the subnationals that agriculture actually takes place in their domain. It doesn't take place here in Abuja. Whatever the federal government is doing is just creating the enabling environment for agriculture to thrive.
In the States.
The actual thing that will help agriculture is work, serious work in the States. I'm sorry to tell you that it is only now that I have seen so many governors coming to pay homage and uploading what the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security is doing. And we have had the singular honor of escorting Mr. President to Niger State, for instance, when they were launching mechanization and all that. And I was there when Mr. President was telling about 4 governors were there, you know, most of them from the North Central, to support one of their own to do this. And I remember him telling them that we should all model him, especially now that there are challenges in the food system. We must be able to do what people like him are doing, to be able to help here. Now, not only should we look at the 230 million or thereabout people in Nigeria, we must look at the countries all around Nigeria, because the market is open to them, and they have even more to offer to the traders. When you take maize, the Prof was saying maize, a bag of 100 kg is about 80,000. I live in Katsina. It's about 85,000 there or that. If you move that to Nigeria Republic, it would be more. So the temptation is that Ken and his people will want to go there because they will get more. So Africa is one market. Nigeria is the so-called giant. How do you think what we produce? With speakers who said that, look, the laws of economics around demand the elasticity of it should hold. I very much agree with that, but I will disagree with them when they tell me that food is not available. It is available, because if you can see, recently I've seen some bulletin where I think the president gave an order that you can now import paddy, so many things can be imported so that you process them and you have more food here. But ask realistically, is it competitive? And you are building a country for the future generations. These are complaining about are easier now because of what our forefathers did. What are we doing now to make it easier for our children and great-grandchildren? So the farms. For me, if my son was involved in this and I know it, I would simply tell the law enforcement agencies. Otherwise, you know, I'm not helping myself, I'm not helping my neighbors, I'm not helping his or her younger brothers or sisters.
All right.
Yeah, you've said quite a lot of things here, and you talked about preparing, you know, things for the future generation. But still, these future generations are not ready to go to the farm, you know. And let's bring in Ken Ukwa into the conversation now. Government alone cannot do it. In other developed countries like in Europe, we see it contributes a lot to the GDP, the farming, the ranching, and all that. Now how can we bring in the private sector, like you are, you know, to invest in improving food processing? That's one. Storage and transportation infrastructure itself to boost agricultural sector.
No, thank you very much. I'll go straight to the point, and I will give some kind of recommendations. Number one, we shouldn't deceive ourselves. Any of these things, let's make sure that these things can be implemented, at least for now. Understand that we shouldn't be down with naira dollar volatility, the exchange rate volatility. First, a situation where it takes you about 18.4 million naira to, you know, to clear a container, a 40-feet container, it doesn't make any sense. Once you bring it, like Acte say, once you bring it, the price will also be up there. Therefore, I recommend government, for now, as an emergency step, should not allow customs to be, you know, using dollar equivalents for clearing of consumer products, at least for now. Number three, I want to see a situation where the governors, at the regional level, the governors and the local governments, you know, well, they are not there.
They're non-existent.
Unfortunately. Unfortunately. Okay, the governors, I want to see a situation where they will also take some steps. Like what is happening in Niger State, where they have AVADEP, the Agricultural Value Chain Development Program, now on ground. And the government said, look, 10,000 hectares of land for cultivation per local government. And if you look at the 27 local government, that means you are giving about 270,000 hectares of land. And this is not speech by mouth. This is not mounting. They have followed it up critically, with strategy, with documentation, and with actions. And you see the tractors and all of those food inputs and all of that. I have seen this myself. I am part of the process. In fact, we are leading in the market component.
As the private sector.
Yes, as private sector. And that's why your question is also being answered. Number 4 is that at this time of emergency, government can also begin to lay embargo on all of these local government taxes and all of that are destroying and destructing, you know, movement of commodities that are removed. I mean, bringing up corrupt practices and all of that. Prices of commodities. Lay an embargo. Federal government can do that, and I think that could be done. You cannot be basing, I mean, be anchoring on, you know, on the concept of IGR, and then killing the people. You want to increase revenue, you want to generate revenue, and then the people are dying of hunger. Number 5, I want also to see a situation where the Federal Ministry of Agriculture calls, humbly calls for a stakeholder meeting. The farmers, the traders, other private sectors, the processors, the manufacturers of food items. Let's sit down and find solutions. You can't do it all. You are not a man that knows everything. We can push in a little of our practical knowledge on the streets, and then that will help. That will help.
And that has not been done.
It's not done. It's not done.
Right.
I'm sure he is here. He is not done. We are looking towards that. In fact, I personally have written a memo on this.
Okay. Let me get me involved again in all of this. Is there a role for the federal government?
Still don't have a free market economy. We have an economy that is controlled by pockets of association, interest association in the space. So you actually have an oligopoly in place where a number of people come together as association and determine price. So we are yet to have that free space where supply and demand determine price, which is supposed to be the primary function of those two mechanisms. So to that extent, I expect that the FCPC, I think I learned sometimes that to see if people were actually artificially determining prices, that should be the role of the FCPC. Now about the federal government, unfortunately, it's a constitutional thing. The ownership of land, which I know Nigerians as a people, we are tied to our land. So there's a challenge in relationship, either at the level of the community, at the level of the individual, at the level of the subnational. There's so much, there's what I call a confluence of conflicts in that space that needs to be unknotted, because individual ownership itself is challenged. Don't forget that when you get your CFO, is 100 years, 100 years rent, actually. Some people are just buying land now that had actually expired, some that only have 20 years, 30 years. We have that challenge to meet down the road in another 20, 30 years. We have another level of conflicts at that level. But for the federal government, I think going forward, in an emergency, as Doc had noted, should actually start acquiring land, at the state level. It has the right, especially if it's considered the Federal Highway Act. The Federal Highway Act empowered the federal government, especially when it's going to build, to acquire land. And as architect noted, London to Coventry is our model. The shoulders of the roads, if the federal government takes 50 meters to the right, 50 meters to the left, across just about 100 kilometers of road, you can imagine what square meters of land will be available for agriculture. And to my mind, one, because it's near impossible to deliver a 20 kilometers rural village to urban center road, for instance. We may need at this point in time to acquire those kind of land and, of course, involve the private sector to develop. And you use the basic comparative advantage, which, for instance, I know in so many parts of the north central states, yam is very versatile. Production of yam is very versatile. In so many parts of northeast, northwest, and all that, rice and other forms of grains. In the southwest, you also have a comparative advantage of what crop products can be produced. Now, because you are you are farming on the shoulders of the road, one, you avail yourself opportunity of easy access to the road, and of course easy access to the marketplace. That is one. Then two, issue of insecurity would also be attended to because they are easily accessible area for law enforcement agencies. Now, I am saying this because of the emergency situation we have. It does not remove the fact that we still need to develop our subsistence farmers. I usually depart from the argument of mechanization. Our culture is subsistence farming. And we need, if we are going to grow into mechanized farming, we need to build on subsistence farming and in most cases promote subsistence farming into mechanized farming. It will not just happen, So there's also a need for that. Then I think there should be this strong focus on agriculture to make it a more buoyant segment of the economy. Over the last 15 years, the Nigerian agricultural sector had only contributed just about 26 at best, 27% of the national GDP. It is not good enough because it is agric that defines us. Either during by our independence, in the immediate post-independence period before we discovered and of course started exploiting crude oil and all that, it is agriculture that defines our economy. So if agriculture defines our economy, we should be talking of agriculture that dominates the GDP. So and by the time we are saying that, it becomes a prosperity that is anchored on agriculture. And to that extent, we'll not be talking about food insecurity. No?
Yes, indeed. We see countries like Ecuador and, contributing collectively farming, and even that at a scale of 3,000 feet above the ground, and then it's collective and it contributes to the economy. Let's bring in Professor Yushao into the conversation, but it will be after the break. We'll be right back.
From the Atlantic across the savannah to the Sahara, we rise, a land of the free, we know they tire. We dream great, our spirit is undying.
Resilient, rooted like palm tree, we sway in colors, we turn dark into light, we make solutions, we ignite passion, yeah. Ethnicity is unique, we have more than just a nation.
We are Nigeria, strengthened in unity, we know they carry lives. We are Nigeria, together live the dream of a land with great destiny. We are Nigeria.
I am the real Nigerian. Brought to you by the National Orientation Agency, NOA.
Meet lovebirds Jayola and Adama Davies. Their dream of living together as man and wife has finally been fulfilled.
The latest couple in town. Yay! Mr. and Mrs. Jaye Davies!
But an invasion by their troublesome families was not a scenario they bargained for. Her mother moves in. His mother shows up with his little niece. Then her younger sister joins the scramble.
You want to stay?
Married life suddenly becomes very complicated even before it started. Follow their story on this channel as they confront every challenge as it comes. Family forever, the story of our lives.
The lights are on and the stage is set for dreams to take flight. Who will be the next idol? Watch Nigerian Idol live performances every Sunday at 7 p.m. and you get to decide by voting for your favorite contestant. You can vote via website, mobile site, or by using the My DSTV or My GoTV app with no stress. To vote via website or mobile site, simply visit africamagic.tv/Nigerian Idol. Click on vote, register, and then enter your details and a password of your choice. It's easy and it's free. You can also get AWOOF votes for your favorite Nigerian Idol contestants. All you have to do is download the My DSTV or My GoTV app and you have more voting power at your fingertips. Visit the website for more information. Voting opens on Sundays after the live shows and closes every Thursday at 8 p.m. Remember, vote for your favorites each week and you get to decide this year's Nigerian Idol.
Nigerian Idol Season 9 is proudly sponsored by Techno, Stop at Nothing, and Biggie for every moment.
Nigeria means unity.
Nigeria means freedom to me.
Nigeria means greatness to me.
Nigeria is indivisible. There is nothing you can do. We all have to savage it together and learn to love each other. We are indivisible.
As a mother and a leader, I will always preach for peace and unity in this country, because that is the only thing that will give us progress. Though tribes and tongues may differ, in brotherhood we stand, and it is the woman that does that.
You're still watching Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. Before we went on the break, I was trying to bring in Professor Yushao Ango into the conversation, and still I'm going to come to you, and to ensure food availability, others are saying that states should be able to implement some measures, like irrigation infrastructure, agri-development policy, storage facilities, support for small-scale farmers, and the words on every Nigerian lips is, if local governments, where all the lands are situated, can get autonomy and be able to use the funds that is coming to them from the federal government, do you think it will be a game changer in agriculture?
Like you said, local governments are actually where all the lands are, and if local governments can have the opportunity, to have all the funds allocated to them normally, monthly, and then directly used by them, I believe it will make a lot of difference. However, I believe we are making progress in that direction. The president is in court, and we pray that we see the outcome of that to be positive. Now, in addition to that, all government at all levels are also contributing. Like we mentioned the issue of states, but the federal government also does something. They have this scheme whereby they build roads, to link up with the rural areas. I've seen quite a number of that. I've seen it in my local government. But unfortunately, I think some people are hijacking it somehow, because I've seen roads here in Kaduna, I've seen roads in Kano, inside the town, which are also constructed. And I believe those roads should have been for the rural areas. But, I also want to comment on what Dr. Okowa said. I don't want to miss this opportunity because, like you said, we are regular, we have met, we have discussed so many times, we have agreed, we have disagreed a number of times. I want to agree completely with the position that we should go for emergency importation, not a solution at all. I don't subscribe to it. I don't believe that is the solution. I believe, this is not conspiracy theory. I believe what food security is that you are able to feed yourselves. The moment Nigeria, reach a point whereby we have to depend on importation for the staple food, then you can be rest assured we'll begin to see a lot of conditions given to us, by those countries who are supplying food to us. It now becomes an issue of aid, given to us. It will come with a lot of conditionalities, including accepting all sorts of things, social things, values that do not agree with our own values. I will not subscribe to that. I agree with Architect Kabiru that we have food. We actually have food. But, the policies we have made, and of course the impact of the, right from the COVID-19 era, when the COVID-19 impacted globally on food prices, globally. This is across the globe. Go anywhere and you find out that that's what has happened. But in addition to that, we have taken some steps this year, in the last 1 year, those steps are impacting on prices. We cannot remove those things from what is happening, but there is food. One thing we have is that there is food in Nigeria, because imagine, after COVID, after closure of the country for so many months, and global economy, for so many months, we came back. We didn't have hunger in Nigeria. We didn't have hunger. Even now, we don't have hunger. What we have is affordability. And I don't think the solution is just importation. I beg to disagree on that count. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm not sure I get the point on when you say what we have is affordability. What we have is a lack of affordability. Yes. If you can't afford it, well, there is hunger.
You're hungry.
I don't know, Architect, I don't know if you can piece this together for us. You see,
there's no challenge of food. Most people can afford food. If you take a small country like the Netherlands, not bigger than Kano, their income from agriculture is only second to that of the United States. There are only 55,000 farmers there. They export what they have. I like what Prof has said. At this point in our in nation building and in our quest for food security in Nigeria, we should discourage outright eating. Rather, what we should do, and I would like you to take this as something that is well thought out. Food security in a nation that has 3 geopolitical zones should not be global. We should look at Southwest, for instance. What is staple? Mostly staple there. Get all the states to come round to scale the production of that. Go to the Southeast, do the same. Go to South, North Central, Northwest, do the same. Don't say rice. Rice globally in Nigeria should be produced optimally. There is a disconnect. There are some places in Nigeria where rice is not staple. Don't say wheat. There are some places it is not staple. So if you look at it from that perspective, you will be able to impact more. Definitely you have to import some things. In Nigeria, we import, there are things that we import. I mean, you can't do anything about milk, for instance. There is a shortfall. And recently we had also a shortfall in beans, in cowpea. We had a deficit of about 500,000 metric tons. So now we are closing that gap. But you know, in spite of that gap, we are also selling to other countries out of necessity. Because the borders are not just there, you know. In Africa, the borders are very, very slim. Izuma should know, she's from, well, she has lived all her life in Borno, in the northeast. Some people come in to Maiduguri, whereas they are actually of Chad extraction. And you can,